Alright guys, it's time to lock in, time to buckle up. I've got a big nasty spreadsheet in front of you here, and we're not going to look at it for too long, but what we're looking at is effective HP and how your PDR and max HP increases your effective HP at certain thresholds and different levels. So this is the equation that you use to calculate your effective HP. And you can also use percent MDR in place of PDR. They work the exact same way. So what we're looking at here is we've got HP and PDR. PDR is going down vertically, HP is going from left to right at the very top there. And we're going to look at how those influence your effective HP. So I've drawn these lines where your effective HP is the same number at different health and PDR values. So like for example, let me go on to the next page really quick because it's easier to see. So at 102 HP and 20% PDR, that is the exact same effective HP of 128 as if you only had 100 HP but 22% PDR. So you add 2 HP or you add 2% PDR, and you get to the same value of 128 effective HP. But now what we're going to see when we look at the lines here is that they actually change shape over time. And the bottom of this goes at a different rate, so it looks like there's more of a curve here, but there's really not. It would be straight if it was scaled the same. So anyway, this is just to help visualize what's happening. Basically, what these curves tell you when you look at them and stare at them very autistically for way too long is that the higher you get in PDR, the more effective HP you get per PDR percentage. In other words, the more PDR you have, you're going to get more effective HP when you go from 1% PDR to the next than if you were going to add more HP. So let's jump back here and just again to prove this to you. So as we went along, and this goes in 2 HP and 2% increments. So as we gained 2 HP or 2% PDR, we were getting the same increase in our effective health. We were getting 3 effective health by getting 2 HP and 3 effective health by getting 2% PDR. Now let's jump down to 50% PDR, and you can see that now we're getting 8 effective HP by adding 2% PDR, and we're only getting 4 by adding 2 HP. Okay, now what if we're at 150 HP? If we add 2 HP, we're only getting 2 effective HP, but we're getting 4 effective HP from 2% PDR. So unless you're way over here, it is always more effective to add percent PDR than it is to add HP. So this is kind of like the barometer for your efficiency. And like this is just, kind of arbitrary. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just a good idea of where you should be aiming for and where you need to really be investing in your HP at. Like if you are anywhere on or below this line, it does not make any sense for you to add more HP if you could have added percent PDR instead. Again, to just prove this to you, if you're at 160 HP, 20% PDR, adding 2 HP will only give you 3 effective HP, but adding 2% PDR gives you 5 effective HP. And this effect only gets stronger the further down you go. The higher your PDR, the more effective HP you're going to get. So if I wanted to be at 300 effective HP, I could be at 150 HP with 50% PDR, or I could be at 48% PDR, but I'd have to get 156 HP. So 6 HP more versus 2% PDR more. If we're at 70% PDR, adding 1 singular percent more PDR gives us 17 effective HP, versus no matter where you're at on this line here in terms of what your health is, adding 1 more health is going to add 7 more effective HP. So there's 2 things happening. your effective HP scales at a constant rate depending on what your PDR is. So if you're at 30% PDR and you add 2 HP, you're going to gain 3 effective health, no matter how much HP you have. But if you're at 150 HP, the more PDR you add, the more that rate increases for how much effective HP you're going to get. So it is non-linear in the direction of the PDR, but it is linear in the direction of your health, which means, again, it's always more efficient to add PDR or MDR. You could use this table for MDR. It is the exact same. It has the exact same structure to it. I was just looking at PDR because that's what most people build for, and yeah, this is just to emphasize to you guys, if you are sitting way down here in your MDR, you really need to start increasing either your HP until you hit this line here, or ideally increasing your MDR. So in order to be really efficient, you need to have at least 20% MDR and 160 HP, or, which is much easier to do, is to have 150 HP and then build, around 26% MDR. So you only have to build 6% MDR versus 10 HP for that benefit and your effective HP to start becoming more and more noticeable. And here's some other examples of the same effective HP at different values of HP and PDR. 130 HP with 48% PDR, 150 HP with only 40%, or 170 HP with 32. So you can see how that works. Here again is just illustrating what I was just talking about. The effective HP that you get as your PDR goes higher, it jumps up more and more and more until the increment between each 2 percentage points of PDR becomes 42 effective HP just from going up by 2%. Whereas if you're at 70% PDR, your effective HP does not have scaling on it when you increase your HP. It is going to scale the same way. So, okay, now a much more reasonable value that you're probably going to be aiming for is around 150 HP, and you can see that the impact that your PDR has is less dramatic, but it is still much greater than adding regular HP. So much more efficient no matter what to add percent PDR, because you're going to gain 25 effective HP by going up by 2 percentage points here. So to say that more concisely, max HP scales with EHP at a constant rate no matter what, but having more PDR makes that impact greater, and PDR scales at a non-linear rate, which means that your EHP is going to increase faster from 1% PDR to the next, the more PDR you have. So PDR is more efficient at increasing EHP and MDR. So 200 EHP is like the efficiency line that I pointed out, and it's always better to increase percent PDR when you've hit that threshold. But that being said, max HP is still important because, again, you're going to get more EHP per health that you add when you're at higher PDR. Like, you're going to get 7 at 70% versus 5 at 56% versus 3 HP, effective HP, at 40%. So again, if you wanted to see more examples, here's another version of that same sheet where I was looking at the same value in different places. That's enough spreadsheet hell. I'm going to show you how to build a fighter knowing this information. So you're going to want to do defense mastery, and you're going to want to run taunt. Otherwise, you will not be able to hit those high values for effective HP. You won't get around even 70% PDR unless you've got taunt and or barricade, which I'm not running barricade. I'm instead running combo attack, and I'll show you why in a second with weapon mastery. So second wind is still incredibly good. Think about it this way, guys. If you have 500 effective HP with 152 HP, adding 40% more to that number gives you 40% more effective HP. So second wind is pretty much non-negotiable, as is taunt, because like I said, when you're at higher percent PDR values, going from 1% to the next has a non-linear impact on your effective HP. It gets better and better the higher you get. So use Taunt, use Second Wind, and then Defense Mastery, Swift, and Weapon Mastery and Combo Attack. So here are what my stats look like. I've only got 152 HP, which is not what you're used to seeing fighters build for, but with this knowledge, you can see that it's actually way more effective than if I was going for higher HP. I have about 60% PDR and an insane 45% MDR. I've got almost 20% action speed, 288 move speed, and my physical power bonus is at 18, but when I use combo attack, it gets up to 40%. I've got a little bit of additional physical damage bonus on these, so it gets to 41% for me. Now, when I activate Taunt, I'm going to be at 73.5% PDR, and I'm going to be around 60% MDR. So if we go back to the spreadsheet really quick, I'm at 152 HP. I've got, to start with, about 60% PDR, so I'm at 380. When I activate Taunt, and I go from 60% all the way to 73.5%, I'm at about 570. I'm adding almost 200 effective HP just by clicking a button. This also works just the same for MDR, right? So I'm at 152. My starting MDR is 45%, which means that I am somewhere around 265 effective HP. And then when I activate Taunt, I go all the way up to 60, which means that I'm back again at the same value that I have pretty much with my PDR to start. It's right around 380 effective HP. And contrast that with how most of you guys are probably building right now, where you've only got 20% MDR. At that value of MDR, rather than having 380 effective HP against magical damage, you only have 190. So I've got 200 more effective HP by building a little bit of MDR. Well, it's not exactly a little bit, it's a lot, but I'm basically either at 100 more HP or 200 more HP, depending on if I have Taunt up or not. So real quick, guys, I'll go back through the kit. You're going to want to use these exact pieces because the dashing boots have magic resist on them. And I'm rolling PDR along with Dex and Vigor. You could roll Strength on these as well. I have golden plate pants because they do not have the -5 magic resist. Same with the gloves, and I got a really good roll on Will, which also increases your magic resist. It's not quite giving me 3%, but it's 2.8 or something, on top of the 2% that you get from the golden gauntlets. And the rule is you always roll flat magic resistance, no matter what. But it's the opposite for PDR. If you're wearing plate gear, you always roll percent PDR. To briefly summarize why that is, there's a threshold for armor rating. Once you hit that threshold, it becomes very inefficient. And that threshold, I believe, is around 340 armor rating, which you can see I'm well beyond that. So if you have any plate gear, always build percent PDR. But no matter what, always build magic resistance, because you are never going to hit that number where it starts becoming more inefficient on your magic resist. Okay. So let's go through the rest of the kit. You're going to want to build a little bit of agi. I aim close to 290 move speed if I can. But again, we are putting magic resist and PDR on as many pieces as we can. The best place to put those rolls is on your jewelry and on your cape, because you cannot roll flat stats on those pieces. So you roll your flat stats on your normal gear pieces where you can, and then you roll your MDR PDR on your jewelry, always. And I had a really good armor pin roll. You can see if you hold Alt and mouse over it, left Alt, it's going to show you what the maximum values are. I almost had a max roll on armor pin, so I kept that. I don't run armor pin on any of my other pieces because it is a complete waste when I can just get 10% on the Morning Star. So yeah, I'm using a Thorn Shield for blocking barbarians or anything that has high impact power, and I'm using a Heater Shield against rangers and wizards. It's got magic resistance on it as well. I like the Recurve or Centaur's Madness because you can do pretty good range damage with it. And yeah, so this is the build that I'm going to be using in Arena. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope this was very helpful. I think, once you understand how much better it is to build these kind of stats, you will feel it when you're playing against wizards, especially. You'll feel like they don't do any damage to you, and you can just walk right at them. So, thanks again, guys, for watching. I'm gonna cut the video here. Have a good one.